The space station floated quietly in the dark. Lights blinked slowly across its long metal body. Some areas were damaged. A fire had broken out 2 days ago in the lower engine rooms. One of the fuel lines had burst. It had taken hours to stop the flames. Inside the station, a young human named Toma walked through the empty halls. He wore a gray work jacket and carried a small toolbox in his left hand. His job was to check each section and report any dangerous leaks or loose wires. As he moved down a narrow corridor, he noticed something strange. One of the doors had been forced open. The edges were black, like they had been burned. Toma stepped inside carefully. The room had once been part of the station's visitor wing. Now it was quiet and dark. Smoke floated near the ceiling. Pieces of broken glass covered the floor. A few lights still blinked weakly along the wall. Then he saw her. In the corner of the room, under a broken metal beam, lay a woman, but not a human. Her skin was light blue. Her hair was long and silver, tangled with ash and small wires. Her clothing was torn and her leg was pinned under the fallen beam. Her eyes opened slowly. They were bright and full of fear. She did not speak, but she looked straight at him. Toma took a step closer. He set down his toolbox and held up his hands to show he meant no harm. The woman blinked, watching him closely. He knelt beside her and touched the beam gently. It was heavy, but not impossible to move. He looked at her leg. It was hurt, but not bleeding. She had likely been here since the fire. Toma looked back at her. She said nothing, but she didn't pull away when he reached for her arm. He gave her a small nod, then placed both hands under the edge of the beam and pushed. It didn't move at first. He tried again, using his full weight. This time it shifted slightly. The woman made a quiet sound, a soft gasp of pain, but she didn't cry out. Toma pushed harder, and the beam finally rolled to the side. She pulled her leg free, then sat back against the wall, breathing hard. Toma sat beside her, tired but calm. He offered her a small bottle of water from his pocket. She took it slowly, her hands shaking a little. She drank. Then she gave him a long look. Not afraid now. Curious. Toma pointed to his chest and said, "Toma." She watched him for a moment. Then she pointed to herself and said, "Leary." He smiled and nodded. Leary. He helped her stand. She leaned on his shoulder as they moved back through the hall. It was slow work. Her leg was weak and she walked with a limp. But she didn't complain. After a few minutes, they reached the small med bay. It had clean walls, a working bed, and soft lights. Toma helped her sit down and turned on the scanner. It showed her leg had a deep bruise but no break. He sprayed a light healing mist over the wound and wrapped it with soft bandage cloth. Leary didn't speak again, but her eyes followed every move he made. Toma finished the wrap and stepped back. She looked at him, then nodded once. He cleaned his hands and sat in the chair near the wall. For a moment, the room was quiet again. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. Leary looked around the room slowly. Her silver hair hung over her shoulder, dirty and twisted with wires, small metal pieces and dust. She reached up to touch it, but pulled her hand away quickly. Toma noticed. He stood up and went to the storage wall. Inside, he found a soft cloth, a bowl, and a small bottle of water cleanser. He placed them beside the bed. Leary tilted her head, unsure of what he was doing. Toma gave her a soft smile, then pointed to her hair. She touched it again, then looked down. She didn't say yes or no, but she didn't stop him either. He poured a little water cleanser into the bowl. It gave off a light, clean scent. Then he dipped the cloth and gently moved closer to her. With slow, careful hands, he began to clean her hair. He started at the ends, working out the dust and tiny wires. He was gentle, never pulling or rushing. Each stroke of the cloth removed more of the ash and oil. Slowly, The silver shine of her hair began to return. Leary sat still. Her eyes stayed open, watching him, but she didn't move. She didn't speak. Minutes passed. Toma worked in silence, brushing the strands between his fingers, careful not to hurt her. He had done this once before, years ago, for his younger sister after an accident at their family farm. That memory came back now as his hands moved. By the time he finished, her hair lay smooth and shining across her shoulders. She touched it with her fingers, then looked at him, still silent. Toma cleaned the tools, placed them back in the storage wall, and sat in the chair again. Leary stared at the floor. Her eyes looked bright, almost wet. Then she turned toward him. Her voice was soft. "I know what this means," she said. Toma looked up, surprised. Leary met his eyes and placed her hand gently over her chest. "This is not small," she said. "On my world, this is a promise." Toma didn't understand everything, but he saw her face and knew it was important. She gave a small nod. "You did not know," she said. "But still, you did it." Toma stayed quiet. Leary leaned back, slowly on the bed, eyes still on him, her silver hair resting across the white pillow. She looked peaceful now. The room stayed quiet again. But something between them had changed. Something had started. Toma sat near the door while Leary rested. The small room was quiet. Only the soft sound of the air system filled the space. Outside, the station lights blinked as they always did. But something inside the med bay had changed. Leary opened her eyes and looked around. Her legs still hurt, but the pain was softer now. She touched her clean hair and looked at Toma. He had done something strange and kind. On her world, this act had meaning, deep meaning. She did not know if he understood, but she felt something new. Toma stood up and walked over with a small tablet. He showed her a picture of Earth, blue oceans, green land, clouds moving across the sky. He smiled and pointed to himself. "Home," he said. Leary stared at the screen. She pointed to the sky on the image and said, "Water sky." Toma laughed lightly. He nodded. She then took the tablet and drew a small circle. Around it, she added 4 small moons. Then she pointed to herself. "My world," she said. Toma watched her with interest. He took the tablet back and drew a line between the 2 worlds. Then a question mark. "How far?" he asked. Leary paused. She didn't know the human word, but she drew a star path with many curves and turns. Then she placed a hand on her chest and pointed to the station walls. "Mission," she said. "Peace." Toma nodded slowly. So she was here as part of something bigger, a mission of peace. But then why had no one come looking for her? He went to the wall screen and opened a communication log. He sent a short message to the main Alliance channel reporting a found guest with unknown language. He didn't share too much. He didn't trust the open net yet. Back near the bed, Leary looked at her bandaged leg, then touched the silver ring on her wrist. It was glowing faintly now. She tapped it gently. A small screen appeared, showing a broken signal. "No reach," she said, frowning. "My ship is gone." Toma sat down again. He pulled out a small bag of food packs and offered one to her. She sniffed it, curious, then took a bite. Her eyes lit up. "Sweet," she said. Toma smiled and nodded. The hours passed slowly. Toma worked nearby, checking wires, fixing panels, and replacing filters. Leary watched him. He moved with care. He didn't talk much, but his eyes were kind. She liked the silence between them. It was not heavy. It was calm. Later, Leary asked for the tablet again. This time she drew symbols from her own language. She wrote simple words and pointed to things. She wrote the word for light and pointed at the ceiling light. She wrote the word for water and pointed at the bottle. Toma understood. He began doing the same. He wrote light and then water. in his language beside her words. Slowly, they started to build a bridge between their two worlds. Each word was a small step. Each drawing was a new door. By the end of the day, they could share names of simple things: food, sleep, hurt, help, friend. Leary wrote the word friend again and pointed to Toma. He smiled. Yes, friend. That night, Leary stayed in the medbay bed. Toma placed a small blanket on her and made sure the room was warm. He didn't leave. Instead, he sat in the chair and looked at the stars through the small window. Leary watched him with soft eyes. She thought about the day, the cleaning of her hair, the kindness in his hands. In her culture, this act was only done between close souls, family, partners, protectors. She wondered if Toma knew that. She touched her hair again. It felt light and smooth. Her heart felt calm, even in a place so far from home. The next morning, Toma brought a small plant from his work table. It had green leaves and tiny white flowers. He placed it near her bed. Leary leaned close. She smelled the flowers and smiled. "Alive," she said. Toma nodded. "Yes. My mother gave this to me." Leary touched one leaf gently. "It is good." The next few days moved gently. Leary's leg healed quickly with the help of the station's medical tools. She could now walk slowly, using the wall for balance. Toma taught her more words. She taught him how to say greetings in her tongue. One day, she opened a small storage bag she had kept close. Inside was a silver pendant. She held it out to Toma. "This is my sign," she said. "Peace holder." Toma looked at it closely. The metal was smooth and shaped like a wing. It had a symbol at the center, glowing softly. "It is beautiful," he said. She nodded. This was for a gift, a first meeting, but the fire changed everything. Toma understood. She had come in peace, but something went wrong. He wanted to ask what happened to her ship, but he could see in her eyes that it still hurt to think about it. So he stayed quiet. Instead, he stood and picked up her brush. With slow hands, he began to brush her hair again. She sat still, eyes closed. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of meaning. When he finished, she opened her eyes. "Again," she said, "you do not know what this means. But I do." Toma looked at her, unsure. She smiled gently. "In my world, when someone cleans another's hair, they make a bond, a promise. It is deep, strong, only done when hearts are open." Toma listened, quiet and still. Leary placed her hand over her heart and said, "I will remember." Outside the station walls, the stars moved across the sky. But inside the med bay, two strangers were no longer strangers. A connection had formed. No words could break it. And in the silence between them, something powerful began to grow. Toma sat on the floor of the control room. He had spread out wires and small tools around him. One of the main signal boards had stopped working, and he needed to fix it. Behind him, the sound of slow footsteps echoed. He turned and saw Leary, walking carefully with the help of a metal rod. She smiled as she reached the table. "I can walk better now," she said. Toma smiled back. "You are healing fast." Leary sat down across from him. Her hair, now clean and smooth, fell over her, shoulders like a silver river. The station's soft light touched it gently. Toma noticed the change in her. She looked stronger, more sure, but her eyes still carried a quiet sadness. She watched him work for a while. Then she looked out the small window beside them. "My, people must think I am lost," she said. Toma paused his work. "I sent a message to the Alliance channel. No one answered yet." Leary looked down. "If the wrong ones read your message, they will not come to help." Toma frowned. What do you mean? Leary stayed quiet for a moment. Then she spoke slowly. My ship was not broken by accident, she said. Someone wanted to stop the peace meeting. They placed a false path in our system. It sent us into a trap. Toma listened carefully. He did not ask more questions. He just waited. I was the only one who escaped, Leary said. I found a pod and launched before the crash. I thought I could send a signal once I landed, but the fire on this station stopped everything, Toma nodded. You were lucky I found you. Leary looked at him. Yes, but also something more than luck. You could have walked away. I was a stranger. You did not know me. Yet you helped. Toma leaned back and wiped his hands with a cloth. I saw someone who needed help. That's enough for me. Leary smiled. On my world, help like that means something. A bond is made. A promise is formed. She reached up and touched her hair gently. When you cleaned my hair, I was surprised. On my planet, only someone who is close, someone who gives their heart, does that. Toma looked at her, unsure what to say. I know you did not do it for that reason, she said. But the meaning still stays. It is not a small act for me. It is a gift, a sign of trust, of care. Toma stood up and walked toward the window. The stars outside were still, shining in the black sky. He thought about her words. I didn't know, he said quietly, but I'm glad I did it. Leary walked closer. Where I come from. When one person cares for another in this way, it is called Varentai. It means shared path, not just for one day, but for whatever comes next. Toma turned to her. And now? I believe we have a shared path, Leary said. He smiled gently. Then we follow it. They sat together in the control room for a while longer. Toma showed her the screen where the station's systems were slowly coming back online. Lights were green again. Airflow was steady. Life support was strong, but the long-range signal was still weak. We need a stronger tower to send your message, Toma said. The small antenna here is not enough. Leary thought for a moment. Then she tapped the screen and pointed to the old beacon tower near the top of the station. That place could work. Toma nodded. It's dangerous up there. Some parts are broken. Leary gave a soft smile, but not impossible. The next day, they prepared for the climb. Toma packed tools and a small power core. Leary wore stronger boots and wrapped her leg in a support brace. She moved slowly, but her spirit was steady. They reached the tower door after an hour of walking and climbing. The halls were narrow and the lights were dim. Dust floated in the air. Old signs marked the way in faded letters. At the base of the tower, Toma looked up. The ladder was long. The top was hidden in shadow. Are you ready? He asked. Leary nodded. With you, yes. They climbed together, step by step. Toma led the way, checking each rung. Leary followed close behind. At the top, the tower room was cold and open. Wind from a broken panel made a soft whistling sound. In the center stood the old signal core. Toma opened the panel and placed the power core inside. Lights blinked to life. Leary stood beside him and linked her wrist device to the tower. A soft hum filled the room. She smiled. It's working, she said. Toma watched the screen. A signal was now reaching the stars. A message was being sent. A message of survival, of peace. Leary turned to him. You have done more than help, she said. You have stood beside me. Even without knowing my world, you have shown respect and care. Toma looked into her eyes. You're not just someone I rescued, he said. You're someone I believe in. Leary reached into her pocket and took out the silver wing pendant. She placed it gently in his hand. This is yours now, she said. You are part of the peace I carry. Toma held the pendant carefully. "I'll keep it safe," he said. As they stood in the quiet tower, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The message was out. Help might be on the way. But even if it was not, they were no longer alone. They had a bond, a shared path, and they would walk it together. The tower signal kept blinking slowly. It was now sending the message across deep space. Toma and Leary sat near the tower wall, tired but hopeful. They had done what they could. Now they had to wait. Leary looked at the stars through the broken panel in the ceiling. Her planet was somewhere out there, far from this station. She wondered who had heard the message, friend or enemy. It was hard to say. Toma handed her a warm drink. It was made from a fruit grown in Earth's moon gardens. Leary took a small sip and smiled. "This is sweet," she said. Toma nodded. "It helps you stay warm." They sat in silence for a while. The tower was cold, but the quiet was peaceful. Leary looked at the silver pendant on Toma's neck. It now rested there like it had always belonged. "That symbol means more than peace," she said softly. "It also means trust." Toma touched the pendant gently. "Then I will protect it." Suddenly, the signal panel blinked 3 times in a row. Toma turned to it at once. A reply had come. It was a message from a nearby ship. Leary stood quickly and looked at the screen. The signal was strong. It came from a vessel using Alliance codes, but something felt strange. The message was short. "Recovering lost guest. Prepare for arrival." That was all. Toma frowned. No names, no ID, just a command. Leary touched the screen and read the signal code again. Then she shook her head slowly. "This is not the right team," she said. "These codes are old. These are not from the main Alliance. These are from the side group that wanted my ship to fail." Toma looked at her. "They followed your signal." "Yes," Leary said. "And now they are coming to take me." Toma stood up. "Then we need a plan." They climbed down the tower and returned to the control room. Toma checked the time. The ship would arrive in just 3 hours. Leary walked beside him. Her steps were slow but steady. "They will not come in peace," she said. "If they take me, I may not return." Toma looked at her. "Then I won't let them take you." Leary placed her hand over his. "We must be careful," she said. "They wear the face of the Alliance, but their hearts are different. They do not want peace. They want power." Toma nodded. "We can't stop them with force. But maybe we can stop them with truth." Leary thought for a moment. "There is one way," she said. "On my world, we have something called the ancient words, a code spoken in public before witnesses. If I speak it to someone from my world, they must listen. They cannot act with lies if the words are spoken. But we don't have anyone else from your world here," Toma said. She looked at him. "We have you." Toma raised his eyebrows. "Me? You cleaned my hair," Leary said. "You accepted the pendant. That means you carry the bond. You can act as my witness, my protector." Toma paused for a moment. Then he smiled. "Then teach me." They spent the next hour preparing. Leary taught him the words slowly. Her language was not easy, but Toma repeated the sounds with care. The phrases were short and strong. Each one had a deep meaning. "First," Leary said, "you say, 'I carry no mask. My voice is true.'" Toma repeated it. "Second, the bond is made. I stand with open hands." He said it again, slower this time. "Last, if harm is planned, let it fall on me first." Toma looked into her eyes. "That one is heavy." Leary nodded. "Yes, but it is the strongest one. If you speak it, they must stop and listen. If they do not, they break the old code." Toma practiced until he could say the full part clearly. Then they moved to the station's entry bay. The ship would dock there soon. Leary stood tall beside him, her hair tied back with a silver thread. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Soon, the docking light turned green. The sound of metal. Arms moved through the station as the new ship attached. A soft hiss followed. Then silence. The door opened. 4 beings stepped inside. 2 were tall and wore dark suits with silver lines. The other 2 were smaller, wearing the mark of the Outer Alliance. One of them walked forward. He looked at Leary. His face showed a practiced smile. "Peace to you, Leary of Norean," he said. "We have come to take you home." Leary gave a short bow. "Peace to you, Kieran of Soul Path. I hear your words." Toma stepped forward. The man looked at him with curiosity. "And who is this?" "I am Toma," he said. "I stand with her." Kieran smiled again. "We thank you for your help. Now we will take her. You can return to your duties." Toma looked at Leary. She gave a small nod. Then Toma stepped forward and spoke. "I carry no mask. My voice is true," he said clearly. The room went silent. "I stand with open hands. The bond is made." Kieran's smile faded slightly. The other 3 moved quietly, watching closely. "If harm is planned," Toma said, "let it fall on me first." Now Kieran's face turned serious. "You speak the old code," he said. "You are not from her world." "How do you know these words?" Toma said nothing. He simply touched the pendant around his neck. Leary stepped forward. "He carries my sign," she said. "He cleaned my hair. He gave care. He made the bond. He has the right." Kieran looked between them. He stayed quiet for a long moment. Then he stepped back. "The code has been spoken," he said. "We will report this, but our hands are now tied." Toma watched as the group turned and walked back toward their ship. No fight, no tricks, just silence. Once the door closed, Leary turned to Toma. "You spoke the words well," she said. Toma smiled. "I had a good teacher." They stood in the entry bay, quiet again. But this time, it was a calm silence. They had protected something precious, and the path ahead was still open. The station lights flickered above the main hallway. Toma and Leary walked side by side, their steps quiet. The ship that came earlier had left, but something still felt wrong. "They stepped back because of the old code," Toma said. "Yes," Leary replied, "but they did not go far. They will return. They do not like failure." Toma checked the wall panel. It showed a scan of the area outside. The ship was still close. It had not gone far, just floated near the station. "They are watching," he said. Leary nodded. "They wait for a weak moment." They returned to the control room. Toma locked the doors and checked the cameras. He noticed something strange on one of the screens. A small shuttle had detached from the main ship. It was moving toward the lower dock. "They are sending a team," he said. Secretly, Leary added. "They want to avoid the rules now." Toma moved fast. He shut down the lower dock lights to slow them. Then he turned to Leary. "We need to go to the outer ring," he said. "They will search the center first." Leary grabbed her small bag and followed him. Her leg was still healing, but she didn't let it stop her. She knew this station now. She had learned the turns, the ladders, the short paths. They moved through the back corridors, past storage rooms and engine walls. The smell of smoke still hung in some corners. The station had been damaged before, and those old burns had never been fully cleared. Toma stopped at a service panel. "I have an idea," he said. He opened the panel and pulled out a wire board. He connected 2 lines and tapped a code on his small pad. "What are you doing?" Leary asked. "Setting a false trail," he replied. "I'm sending sound and movement data to the other side of the station. They will think we are hiding there." Leary smiled. Clever. Toma nodded. Let them chase shadows. They continued walking. Soon they reached the outer ring. It was quieter here. The lights were low, and the metal walls made soft echo sounds. They entered a small room once used for research. Inside there was a window showing the stars. We can wait here for a short time, Toma said. Leary sat on a bench and looked out the window. Your world is far from here, she said. Yes, Toma replied. But I feel close to something important now. She turned to him. Do you feel afraid? Toma thought for a moment. I don't feel afraid when I'm with you, he said. I just feel focused. Leary gave a small smile. That is a strong answer. They rested for a while. Toma checked the signals again. The false trail was working. The intruders had moved to the eastern section of the station. But then something happened. A light on the wall blinked red. Toma stood at once. They found the power core. They are trying to shut it down. Leary stood with him. If the power stops, the air systems will fail. Toma nodded. We need to stop them. They left the small room and headed toward the core hall. It was a long path with pipes running along both sides. Steam escaped from one of the broken vents. The hall felt warm and thick with air. As they walked, Leary stopped suddenly. She pointed ahead. Smoke was rising from a control box. They are all ready. Here, she whispered. Toma moved forward slowly. He peeked around the corner. Two figures were working on the wires. They wore dark suits like before. One of them was using a small tool to cut through the main power line. Toma looked back at Leary. We need to distract them, he said. Leary thought quickly. She took off her silver bracelet and pressed a button. The bracelet began to glow with a soft light. Then she tossed it down the hall. The light hit the floor and bounced, sending out a soft hum. The two intruders turned at once. What was that? One of them said. They stepped away from the power line and followed the sound. Toma used the moment to move fast. He ran to the control box and shut the panel. Then he locked it with a hand code. The power was safe again. He turned and ran back toward Leary. She was waiting behind a wall. Together, they moved to the next hall before the intruders returned. They will know we are close, Toma said. We must be ready, Leary replied. They returned to the central hall. Toma opened a storage room and pulled out a small speaker. He placed it near the vent and turned it on. A voice recording played through the speaker. It was Leary's voice from an earlier lesson. Her words echoed softly down the vent. The intruders heard the voice and followed it again. They are chasing sound again, Toma said. Leary looked at him. Your mind works like water, always finding a way. Toma smiled. Thank you. But just as they turned to leave, the station shook slightly. A sound rang through the walls. They are trying to open the main gate, Toma said. If they open it, others may enter. Leary stepped forward. Then we must face them now, she said. Toma looked at her. He saw no fear in her eyes. Together, he said. They returned to the entry hall. The gate lights blinked red. Two figures stood at the control panel typing commands. Toma stepped forward. Stop, he said. The two figures turned around. They were not surprised. You are causing damage to a protected place, Leary said firmly. One of the intruders stepped forward. You are not in charge here. I speak with bond rights, Leary replied. This human has the sign. Toma held up the pendant. The intruders paused. If you act now, Leary continued, you will break the old laws. The council will know. The other figure stepped back. We should leave, he said. The first one hesitated, then gave a short nod. You win today, he said. But peace is not safe. The two of them turned and walked out. The gate lights returned to normal. Toma and Leary stood in the middle of the hall. The smoke in the air slowly cleared. Leary looked at him. You stayed. Toma nodded. I will keep staying. They had passed another test. The danger had not fully ended. But they were stronger now. Their bond had faced fire and shadow, and it still held firm. The station was quiet again, but the tension lingered in the air. Toma and Leary walked slowly through the halls. The smoke had cleared, but their minds were heavy with questions. Leary looked at the damaged walls. "This place holds many secrets," she said softly. Toma nodded. "You think the attackers are still nearby?" She shook her head. "Not here. They will wait in the shadows. But something else worries me." Toma stopped and looked at her. "What is it?" Leary took a deep breath. "The message I sent. It may have reached more than just the Alliance. There are old enemies who want to stop peace forever." Toma frowned. "Who are they?" "My people once fought a great war. Some groups did not want peace. They hid in the dark, planning to return when no one expected." He touched her shoulder gently. "Then we must be ready." Leary smiled faintly. "I am glad you say that." They reached a small room with many old machines and maps. Leary opened a dusty cabinet and pulled out a thin metal box. She wiped the dust away and opened it carefully. Inside were small crystals and data chips. "These are from my world," she said. "The past. They hold stories and codes. We can use them." Toma looked closely. "How?" "We can send a new message," she explained. "A message that proves who we are, that shows the truth to those who listen." He nodded. "Then let's do it." They worked through the afternoon. Leary connected the crystals to the station's main computer. Toma helped decode the old data. Together, they built a signal that carried a story: the true history of the war, the hope for peace, and the warning about the dark groups. As they worked, Leary shared more of her past. "My family were leaders of peace," she said, "but many turned against them. The war broke families and planets apart." Toma listened with respect. "That must have been hard." "It was," she said, "but it made me strong and careful." When the message was ready, Toma and Leary went back to the tower. The signal was set to send across the galaxy. It would reach many worlds. Leary looked at the stars. "This time, they will know the truth." Suddenly, an alarm rang through the station. Red lights flashed. "What now?" Toma said, tense. Leary's eyes widened. "It's a warning from my ship's systems. Something is coming." They hurried to the control room. The screen showed a large ship approaching fast. "This is no small team," Toma said. "It looks like a warship." Leary swallowed hard. "The dark groups. They have found us." The station shook slightly as the ship fired a warning shot. The sky outside lit up in flashes. Toma and Leary stood side by side. They were ready. The ship's voice came through the speaker. It was cold and harsh. "This station is under control of the dark groups. Surrender Leary now." Leary looked at Toma. "We cannot give up." Toma nodded. "Then we fight with what we have." They locked the doors and prepared the station's defenses. The old turrets, though rusty, still worked. Leary activated the communication system again. She sent a final message through the crystal signal, a call for help to any nearby allies. Outside, the warship opened fire. The station shook under the blasts. Sparks flew from the walls. Toma fired the turret. The beam hit the ship's shield. Leary moved to the power panel, trying to keep systems running. The fight was hard, but they held strong. Suddenly, a fleet of small ships appeared on the screen. They were Alliance fighters responding to Leary's call. The warship turned to face the new threat. Leary smiled. "Help has come." With the new ships, the battle turned. The dark warship retreated into the black space. The station was safe for now. Toma and Leary stood outside looking at the stars. "You saved us," Leary said softly. "We saved each other," Toma replied. Their bond was stronger than before. The past was dark, but the future now held light. The stars shone bright beyond the station's windows. The battle was over. The dark warship had fled into deep space. The Alliance ships patrolled the area, their lights soft and steady. Toma and Leary stood side by side in the control room. Their faces were tired but calm. The station hummed quietly, a gentle reminder that life went on. Leary looked at Toma. "Thank you for standing with me," he smiled. "You saved me too." For the first time since they met, a small peace settled in their hearts. The communication panel beeped softly. A message came from the Alliance Council. It was an offer of help and friendship. They promised to protect the station and Leary's world. Leary read the message aloud. "The Council welcomes the truth you shared. They will send a team to build trust and repair the damage." Toma nodded. "This is a new chance." Leary looked around the station. "There is much to fix, but more important is what comes next." Toma asked, "What do you mean?" She smiled softly. "Trust, between worlds, between people. This bond we made, it is more than just a promise. It is a path forward." He looked at her silver pendant. It shone quietly in the light. "We will walk that path," he said. Days passed, and the station became busy with new visitors. Alliance engineers worked on repairs. Diplomats arrived to meet Leary and learn about her culture. The dark group's threat was still there, but now many stood ready to face it together. Toma helped with the repairs, learning more about Leary's technology. Leary shared stories of her people's history and hopes. They grew closer with each day. One evening, as the sun set over the distant planet below, Leary and Toma sat by the observation window. Leary spoke softly. "When I was captured, I thought I would lose everything." Toma looked at her. "But you didn't." "No," she said, "because I found something unexpected. Friendship and trust from someone I did not expect." Toma smiled. "I never imagined I would be part of your world." Leary nodded. "Neither did I. But sometimes the stars bring us together for a reason." They sat in silence, watching the stars appear one by one. Suddenly, a soft chime came from the communication panel. Toma stood and checked it. A message from Leary's home planet. "It is a welcome message," he said. Leary's eyes filled with hope. "They know I am safe, and that peace is possible." Toma reached out and took her hand gently. "This is just the beginning," he said. She squeezed his hand. "Together, we will build a future worth living." Outside, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The old wounds were healing, the fear was fading. A new dawn was coming, and with it, the promise of a better world for all.